Hi everyone, welcome to Knauss Brown Bag. Today we have two great speakers. First up is Carrie Schmaus. She is a 2018 Knauss Fellow at the Water Power Technologies Office in the U.S. Department of Energy, where she works as a marine science analyst and interagency coordinator. Before joining DOE, she worked as a research fellow at the National Council for Public-Private Partnerships, a DC-based nonprofit that educates about successful public-private partnership models. She graduated with her master's from the School of Marine and Environmental Affairs at the University of Washington after graduating Phi Beta Kappa from Wittenberg University with a degree in biology. So excited to have you here.
Thank you. All right, hi everybody. Like Emily said, my name is Carrie Schmaus. I'm a Knauss Fellow at the Water Power Office at Department of Energy. And today I'll be talking about marine renewable energy and its role in powering the blue economy. All right, before I get started, I just want to give you a quick overview of what I'll be talking about today. I'm going to start with the Water Power Technologies Office and what it is and what we do. Then I'll move on to the current state of marine renewable energy and include some information about the resources around the globe. Then we'll move into talking about the blue economy, explaining what that is and what it means for marine renewable energy, as well as how DOE is envisioning the Water Powers Office role in the blue economy. After that, if I have some time, we'll touch on some other projects of interest. So the Water Power Technologies Office is in the energy efficiency and renewable energy part of DOE. Our work is focused around three main buckets. The first is investing in early stage research to accelerate development of innovative water power technologies while ensuring that long-term sustainability and environmental issues are addressed. Second, we validate performance and grid reliability for these devices. That means just making sure that they work the way they should and they're reliable enough to be plugged into the continental grid. We also support efforts to develop and increase accessibility to testing infrastructure. Right now, we're working on a really exciting project. It's a wave testing site off the coast of Oregon called PacWave. That's going to be opening in 2021 or 2022. So I'll include some more information about that later in the presentation. And finally, we aggregate, analyze, and disseminate technical information on water power technologies, as well as related issues to stakeholders and decision makers. And so here I have a screenshot of the 2016 State of the Science report. I'll get more in detail about this report a little bit later, but it's a report that details all the potential environmental interactions of marine renewable energy, and that's something that's really important to our portfolio. Diving in a little more to what the Water Power Technologies Office does, we have two main portfolios. The first is hydropower. I don't work very closely with the hydropower portfolio, so I've included some examples of activities that the hydropower folks are working on. That includes upgrades for existing hydropower as well as new low impact projects. And something that I think is especially exciting that they're working on is called pump storage. It's kind of like using water as a giant battery. If you're interested in learning more about that, NPR did a really wonderful story on this, so I'd encourage you to check it out if you want to learn more. But this presentation is going to be focused mostly on marine energy, which is the portfolio I work most closely with, and that is just getting energy from the ocean and rivers. And so that includes wave, tidal currents, river currents, and ocean currents. So I'll be talking about each of those in a little more depth later on. To give you a little more context on the Water Power Office, I've included some information about our budget. This shows our stats for the budget from 2013 up through the last enacted budget in 2018. Here, the green is the Water Power Office, and the blue is the green is the marine energy, and the blue is the hydropower. So you can see that we've had a nice upward increasing trend in our office, so we're pretty excited about that. This last budget had a total of $105 million. 70 of that was for the marine energy, and 35 of that was for hydropower. Okay, now that we know a little bit about what the Water Power Office is and what we do, I wanted to dive into the current state of the marine renewable energy industry. Here are a bunch of different pictures of all the different kinds of marine renewable energy devices that are out on the market today and out in the water and testing. You can see that there are many different kinds. Here is a turbine that gets energy from currents. This is a tidal turbine, kind of looks like a wind turbine, but is a little bit different. And then anything that kind of sits on top of the water, like these here, are what we call WECs, which are wave energy converters, and they just sit on the top of the water and get the energy from the waves. And then there's some kind of out there ones. There's this sheet that oscillates back and forth with the motion of the ocean and gets energy from that. And so when we're looking at all these different kinds of devices, something I want to bring your attention to is how diverse they really are. There's not one sort of device, there's not one archetype of each device. And so when we start thinking about where the industry is and where it's going, I really like to talk about the wind industry because it's we're following kind of a similar trajectory. And so if you look at these different kinds of devices, when the wind energy industry was just getting started, you can see that there are there's lots of diversity here, all these different ways that people were working on to get energy out of the wind. And eventually, through lots of trial and error, they converged upon the three-bladed turbine that we're all pretty familiar with. Looking at the marine energy industry, you can see that we do not yet have our three-bladed turbine. And so that's something that makes this industry really exciting to work in because there's a lot of innovation and invention going on every day. But it is important context to note when talking about the Water Power Technologies Office. And so I just wanted to bring up a few reasons that is still true. First, I don't think I have to tell this group this, but we know that the ocean is a very hostile environment. Saltwater is corrosive, wave action can be damaging to certain devices, and so just getting the devices tested in the water and making sure that they work can be pretty challenging and expensive. Also, putting something in the ocean requires a lot of regulatory hoops that you have to jump through, be that state or federal. So getting devices into the water can be a challenge. And so that all those factors kind of coalesce to make it so we have not yet converged upon a particular technology. Okay, so now we have an idea of what the devices are like. I wanted to talk a little bit about the resource that we have available across the globe. I really like this figure because it shows all the different wave energy resources across the world. As the colors get warmer, that means it's a more intense resource. And I want to bring your attention to two specific places. One is off the west coast of the United States, has high wave action, as well as here off the coast of Europe. And that is important when we start thinking about the different players in the global marine energy industry. So on the side here, this is just showing all the different numbers of marine renewable energy companies. I will note that these are just DOE estimates, so something to know. But in first place, we have Europe. They have the highest number of marine renewable energy device companies, followed closely by the US. Something I think is interesting and really speaks to that wave resource map that I just showed. Most of these companies are developing wave energy devices, and that's shown by the part of the bar that's in blue. But the orange part is current, and so something that's just kind of interesting, you see Canada is the only country that is not mostly focusing on wave, and that's because they have the Bay of Fundy there, so they're really working on current devices. But something that's pretty exciting about this is that the USA is home to more than 1/3 of all active marine energy companies. So there's a lot of activity going on here just domestically, which again is very exciting. So now zooming in to a more local level, I wanted to show you guys this figure of the wave and tidal resources in the US. As the colors get darker, that means a more intense wave energy intensity. And so again, you see off the West Coast, there's lots of wave action there, which is why we chose the West Coast to be the site of the new testing center opening in a few years called PacWave that I mentioned before. This map also shows that the opportunities for tidal across the US. So you can see that there's quite a great resource here domestically in the United States. Over here, if we look at the pie charts, this shows all the different kinds of marine renewable energy we have. And the darker colors are what we call theoretically extractable energy. This is energy that is out in the ocean that exists. And then the smaller part of the pie chart is what's called technically extractable. And this is the energy that we can actually take out of the ocean. And so the reason those are so different is because the technically extractable is due to losses in efficiency that you get when you convert energy, as well as what's viable and realistic to actually extract. And so even though it seems like that's only a small slice of the pie here for each of these resources, it is actually 1,500 terawatt hours per year is technically extractable from all the energy resources that we have on this map, and that is equivalent to about 30% of all US generation. So of all the energy that we generate in the US, nearly 1/3 of it could be matched by these resources that we have in the US. So it's really quite an opportunity. And I also really like this stat about the Pacific states. If we could develop just 1/6 of the wave energy off the West Coast, we could power more than 5 million homes. So again, this is a lot of opportunity here, huge resource just domestically in the United States. Okay, now I want to move on to a little bit, some more information about what the Water Power Office is doing in this space. Traditionally, we focus mostly on developing devices that are grid scale, so big enough to be plugged into the continental grid. However, we've lately been expanding our focus to include work in the blue economy. And so I think probably most of the folks here are pretty familiar with the concept of the blue economy, but I wanted to go over what it was just to be complete. DOE does not have an official definition of the blue economy, but we've been using the World Bank as something that we agree with. So the World Bank says that the blue economy is the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improved livelihoods and jobs, and ocean ecosystem health. And so I'll note that that really has that triple bottom line approach, and that's something DOE has agreed with. This figure here is something that a colleague of mine put together, and I think it's a really cool figure because it shows both the scope of what we're calling the blue economy, pretty much anything that happens in the ocean, and it also includes a NOAA study. So if we look at this one here, the OECD estimated in 2010 that the blue economy is worth about 1.5 trillion, and it estimates the value of the blue economy to be about 3 trillion in 2030. And then NOAA did a study that showed just one small slice of this pie, ocean measurement, observation, and forecasting, collectively generated about $7 billion per year and supported about 400 US businesses. And so when we start thinking about the blue economy, we know that there's a lot of opportunity there. It's really big and it's only going to grow. So now I want to move on to how marine renewable energy and the blue economy are related. We've been looking at different applications for marine renewable energy in the blue economy, basically thinking of it as an enabling function, because if you have power offshore, you have a lot of opportunity. So here I have some icons that show some of the different things we could use renewable energy for offshore, things like ocean sensors and observations, algal biofuel growth, desalination, disaster relief. And so I wanted to highlight one that I thought would be particularly interesting for a NOAA audience. We've been looking at the possibility of using marine renewable energy to power offshore aquaculture. And so here's just a little schematic of what that could look like. You could have your device here and it could be powering all the different sorts of activities that occur in offshore aquaculture. And this is really a great opportunity not only to replace things like diesel fuel, but also to increase food security in places that may really need that. So quite an exciting opportunity there. So this is still, powering the blue economy and the work surrounding that is still pretty new in water power. And so I wanted to share with you the visions and goals that we have going forward. So the vision for this work is unlocking new opportunities in ocean science, security, and maritime technology through distributed applications of marine renewable energy. Those distributed applications are things like aquaculture, AUV recharge, like I showed on my previous slide. And we have 4 overarching goals going into this work. The first is to support competitive R&D opportunities for distributed marine renewable technologies targeting maritime markets. The second is to engage partners in ocean science, security, and maritime technology to achieve shared goals. The third is to unlock new growth in the blue economy through energy system innovation. And last, we know that working in these smaller markets will eventually increase the technology readiness towards grid scale applications. So it's really a multi-beneficial sort of approach. One thing that I want to know about this is that in scoping this program, DOE knows that it's bigger than the Water Power Technology Office, it's bigger than DOE even, and it's really going to require a lot of cross-sector and cross-agency coordination, and that's something I know those of you in the audience that know me, you know that I'm very excited about that, and I think that that is going to be a really important part of this going forward. Okay, so now that you know what we're doing with the blue economy, I wanted to share some of our recent activities and kind of where we are, and then I'll end with where we're going. In 2017, we were mostly in a discovery phase. We hosted a forum called the Distributed and Alternate Applications Forum in December. This brought together different experts from different sectors and across the industry to help us determine what these opportunities were for powering the blue economy. And then in April, we published a draft report. And through May through August, we released a request for information where we asked people to comment on this report. And there's some people in this room that commented, so thank you. We did take all those comments and we are currently integrating them into the report, refining it, making it better, and we're looking at early 2019 to release the report. Here's a diagram that shows all the different comments we got back. We had a really wonderful response to this RFI. We got over 400 comments from 41 different people. And like I said, we're now integrating all those comments. This top one here, these are just general comments that we got back. But the second most exciting chapter for people to comment on was ocean observation and navigation, followed pretty closely by underwater vehicle charging and autonomous underwater vehicles. And so we saw a lot of excitement and comments and opinions on these two chapters, as well as a lot of the others. And so we were really pleased with that response, and it was very useful. So looking forward to what comes next, we've started grouping these applications in kind of two main buckets. The first is power at sea. Those are things that are powered offshore. So that includes things like powering ocean sensors and observations, seawater mineral mining, hydrogen production, aquaculture. And the other main bucket is resilient coastal communities. These would be more nearshore applications that would help increase the resiliency of coastal communities. That's things like desalination, disaster relief and recovery, and remote communities. You could even set up a microgrid for a community that doesn't have the ability to plug into the continental grid. So lots of opportunity there. We're starting to work on 4 main scoping activities. The first, of course, is program planning and looking at all the underlying technical challenges within each theme. Basically just asking the question, what do we want to achieve and how can we get there? The second is early stage R&D. We're looking both at market-ready opportunities for some near-term applications, as well as how we can set ourselves up for success in the future. The third, which I've already mentioned, is engaging these different stakeholders that will be involved in this work, asking the question, how can marine renewable energy benefit you? And finally, we're looking at new innovation models to expand this work. And so this is really exciting because we've been looking at prizes and competitions as a way to increase innovation around this space. And we're actually currently scoping a prize around a wave-powered desalination device. So we'll be releasing more information and officially announcing that later this month, but kind of a sneak peek into some of the work that we're doing. All right, looks like I have just a few more moments, so I just wanted to share some of the other work that we do in the office, just to make you aware of one of the resources that we have available. It's called TETHIS, or TETHIS, depending on who you ask. This is a database that has a bunch of data and data sets that have to do with environmental interactions of marine renewable energy. And on TETHIS is the report that I mentioned at the beginning, called the 2016 State of the Science Report. I'll be honest with you, this is not a short report, but I have read it and it is worth reading. It goes through all the potential environmental interactions that marine renewable energy devices may have when they're actually installed in the ocean. And so that goes from everything from collision risk, what happens if a whale comes near your device, to sound and acoustics. How loud could they be? How loud should they be? And so it goes through all these different kinds of environmental effects and risks that may exist when putting devices in the water. So it's a really wonderful report, and it will be updated in 2020. So. I wanted to end with a quick plug. There is a happy hour tomorrow, the District Ocean Networking Happy Hour. It's downtown at the Eaton Hotel on K Street. It brings folks from across the ocean community together to talk about oceans and enjoy some drinks in a cool space. So wanted to give that a quick plug and then open up for any questions. Yeah. The question was, when we're talking about the blue economy, do we include non-use value? Are you talking about the inherent value of the ocean and tourism and things like that?
May not even be used in the ocean. What they, the fact that the oceans are there for them, that they have a value to that.
Right, that's a wonderful question. Yeah, one of the main things that we've been really trying to keep in the conversation is that triple bottom line approach, and sustainability and value of the oceans is definitely part of that conversation. Depending on who's quantifying how important or how much money the blue economy is worth, that answer will change. So to be honest, I'm not sure what the OECD report, how they valued that, or if they did at all. But I know just from conversations in our office, that's something that we do find valuable, and we are thinking of it like that.
Any other questions?
You gave a great talk. I didn't know much about reusable energy in the ocean, and I know that there's a large source, so it's pretty exciting to find out what's been going on there. So Europe has the most like reusable technology companies. Do we have any crossover with them, or are we developing our technologies separately?
That's a great question. So the question was if we're working with Europe basically to develop technologies. Is that a good summary? Okay. Yeah, short answer, yes. There's a lot of collaboration across the ocean with Europe. There are US-based companies and European-based companies, but there are a lot of ways that we all work together. And the one that comes to mind that seems most relevant is conferences. Most of these conferences do have a very international audience, and so we come together to do information sharing and find out what everyone's up to. In terms of technology development, I can't speak to what the crossover is, but my guess would be yes, because they are also working on such a similar kind of device that yeah, there is quite a lot of communication between the two.
Anything else? Anything online? Okay, thank you so much, Carrie.
Thank you.
Oh, I do have one question, Carrie. Yeah, you can answer it.
Sure.
How many companies are commercially using ocean renewable energy?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, yeah, commercial renewable energy, there is one commercial installation. It's a tidal turbine array, and it's in Scotland. But that is the only, we don't have any domestic commercial applications of renewable energy.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we're going to have